Welcome to our Ultimate Explainer on GE3 Purposive Communication. Over the course of this session, we're going to take an entire 18-week collegiate journey and condense it right down. We're talking about decoding the science, the art, and the ethics of exactly how we connect with one another in the modern world. Let's get right into it.
So, let's kick things off with a quick pretest. What is the primary purpose of communication? Are we just trying to entertain, dominate a room, practice our speaking voices? Well, if you guessed option B, you're already way ahead of the curve. The absolute core foundation of everything we'll be covering today is that communication is fundamentally about sharing information and meaning between people. It's all about mutual understanding.
Okay, let's dive into our syllabus for today. First up, a welcome to the course, followed by communication fundamentals. Then we'll navigate intercultural settings, move on to mastering professional writing, and wrap it all up with passing the final exam. Welcome to Purposive Communication. We're stepping right into week 1, and we're focusing heavily on real-world TESTA competencies.
But hey, beware because the standards here are incredibly high. According to the classroom policies set by Assistant Professor May P. Bourbon, unexcused absences result in a 0 grade. And listen to this, if you rack up 5 of them, you're getting referred directly to the guidance office. She literally means business. So keep your focus locked in, and whatever you do, don't skip a single minute of this explainer.
Section 2, the fundamentals of communication. This is where we lay down the absolute core theories of how human beings actually manage to connect.
The whole process essentially runs on the SMCR model. That's sender, message, channel, and receiver. First off, a sender has to encode an idea into words or gestures. Then a channel transmits that message. Maybe it's an email or maybe it's just spoken out loud. Next, the receiver decodes it. But here is the absolutely crucial element. Feedback is returned, and all of this happens while battling something called noise. Noise is basically any barrier that interferes with your message. When you add in that continuous loop of feedback, communication isn't just a one-way street anymore. It actually becomes a transactional model. You are literally always sending and receiving simultaneously.
To make sure your message survives all that noise we just talked about, professionals rely on the 7 C's of effective communication. We're talking clarity, conciseness, correctness, completeness, courtesy, consideration, and concreteness. If you can master these, you are golden. And in a fast-paced business world, conciseness really stands out. It's the absolute art of using just the right amount of words. Not too few that you lack clarity, but not so many that you completely lose your audience. It's all about being profoundly efficient.
Moving on to Section 3, navigating intercultural settings. Now we're going to bridge the gap between basic messaging and the massive complexities of global contact.
A major midterm exam topic contrasts the ways we communicate. Think about it. Verbal language is just the spoken or written words, but nonverbal? Oh, that's where the real magic happens. It relies heavily on body language, or kinesics, as well as your gestures, your eye contact, and your paralanguage. Paralanguage is basically the pitch, the volume, and the tone of your voice. So often, how you say something speaks way louder than the actual words you use.
And this matters today more than ever because of intercultural communication. This is communication between people from entirely different cultural backgrounds. Because of globalization, we have instant, borderless contact. Think about it. You could literally be collaborating with a team in Tokyo, a client in London, and a supplier in Manila, all before you even grab lunch. This makes cultural empathy and sensitivity not just a polite thing to do, but an absolute necessity for modern professionals to avoid misunderstandings.
A massive piece of that cultural sensitivity puzzle is understanding your register. Register is the specific level of formality in your language use, and it depends entirely on your social setting. You definitely don't speak to your CEO the same way you speak to your best friend, right? Alongside register, this course really champions the concept of world Englishes. English is a global, pluricentric language. There are so many legitimate varieties of it out there, including Philippine English. Understanding this definitely helps reduce prejudice and lets us focus on what really matters most: mutual intelligibility and respect.
All right, Section 4, Mastering Professional Writing. We're now advancing into the modules where academic theory meets tangible, real-world digital media.
If you want to be taken seriously in the business world, you have to nail the strict formatting. A proper business letter requires the sender's address, the date, the recipient's address, a formal salutation, the body, a complimentary close, and, of course, a signature. Now, if you're responding to a customer complaint, which, by the way, is an actual practical task you'll see on the final exam, the body of that letter must strike a deeply empathetic tone while also clearly explaining the resolution. In professional writing, structure literally creates trust.
But of course, we don't just write letters anymore, do we? We are fully living in the digital age, and that requires a complete mastery of the multimodal text. This is communication that combines multiple modes simultaneously. Think of things like a digital poster, a YouTube vlog, or a massive social media campaign. It blends written words, visual images, audio, and even spatial design. To be a truly persuasive communicator today, you really must know how to orchestrate all these different elements so they sing in perfect harmony. Because we are just constantly bombarded by these multimodal messages all day long, we have to learn how to defend our minds. Whenever you encounter a message, you should be critically asking yourself, who actually created this? What's their agenda? Who is the intended audience here? And maybe more importantly, what information has been deliberately omitted? Is this source even credible? By constantly asking these questions, you make sure you're reading the digital world responsibly and avoiding those hidden biases.
And finally, Section 5, passing the final exam. We made it to week 18, and this is where we synthesize everything we've talked about to prepare you to absolutely ace this course. But right before you sit down for that test, we need to have a serious talk about academic integrity, because it is strictly non-negotiable. Cheating has some really severe consequences. A first offense gets you a 0 on the output. A second offense? Well, that's an automatic failing grade of F for the entire course. And a third offense means a direct recommendation for dismissal from the whole program. No joke. Proper citation and attribution are absolutely required at all times.
You also need to keep a very specific number in mind here, 20%. The syllabus explicitly states that all major written outputs will be run through a plagiarism checker. If your similarity index exceeds 20%, and that's excluding your references and citations, it's considered a violation of the academic honesty policy. So just do your own work, trust your own voice, and encode your own messages.
So, how do you actually get an A in this class? Well, pay attention to exactly where the most weight is placed in the final grade computation. The midterm and the final exam each count for 30%. That means 60% of your entire grade is resting on just those two major tests. Case studies and group projects make up 15% each, and your everyday quizzes and recitation bring up that final 10%. So if you want to hit that 93 to 100% excellent bracket, you're going to have to perform consistently across all of these areas. To wrap up our explainer today, I actually want to leave you with the real essay question from the final exam. I want you to think about this deeply. How will the skills learned in purposive communication help you in your future career as a professional? Because whether it's crafting a perfectly concise email, navigating a complex multicultural meeting with empathy, or critically evaluating a deceptive media campaign, these aren't just academic tasks to check off a list. These are the exact tools you are going to use to build your reputation and succeed in the real world. So, the question is, how will you use them? Keep learning, keep communicating clearly, and I'll catch you next time.